Welcome to today's episode of OutSolve's Outrageous HR podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Boudreaux, account executive over here at OutSolve, and today with me is Nick Jones. Nick, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Nick Jones. I'm part of the compensation team over here at OutSolve. Been here for about 7 years working on market analysis, salary survey projects, and also pay equity projects using multiple linear regression.
Today we're diving into everyone's favorite topic, compensation. From benchmark salary surveys to pay equity analysis and audits, we're going to tell you everything that you need to know to build a strategic compensation plan. So Nick, what is one of the most prevalent challenges that you see companies with compensation?
Yeah, so I see a variety of different issues on a day-to-day basis, whether that's rapidly growing companies that suddenly need a structure to sort of keep up with the HR demands of compensation decisions throughout the year, or maybe it's a well-mature company where they've never had that structure to begin with and they need sort of the evidence-based data to back up what they're doing throughout the year. I'm thinking specifically of an example that where companies go through a lot of acquisitions or a lot of growth in a short period of time, and they can't necessarily do the things they've done before that they could do before on an employee by employee basis, trying to make everybody happy. There needs to be some guidelines and some structure and some consistency in their practices so that it's easy to make those decisions moving forward. And they have that structure to kind of point to as for reasons why people are getting paid the way they are. Things that what happens when you don't have that structure are things like compression issues, things like unfair pay, things like retention issues. So we want to try to avoid all those, and the easiest way to do that is to have a consistent strategy day over day moving forward.
So what is a compensation strategy and how is it different from just setting salaries?
Yeah, so it is setting salaries, but it's also kind of providing a framework in that structure that I was talking about that clearly defines minimums and maximums for each position and clearly defines pay factors that should influence why people are getting paid what they are, right? It shouldn't leave any room for questioning about favoritism or discrimination. You should be pointing to a consistent set of factors like experience, certifications, education, performance, complexity of work. All those things should consistently impact pay. And if they don't, then you do leave the door open for some of those risk issues that we talked about before, compression and retention and attracting candidates.
So what is a pay or compensation philosophy and why should companies define one?
Yeah, so it's really important to sort of figure out where you are first before you define your compensation philosophy, right? You can pretend like you want to be market leaders or industry leaders with how you pay your employees, but if you don't really have that data to back up your claims, it's not going to be great. So my suggestion is to start always with a market analysis. Again, just to kind of figure out where do you currently sit within the market so that when you do define your compensation philosophy, if you're within range of the market, you can say, hey, we're on par with the market and not necessarily fib and say, hey, we're industry leaders. We always pay above our competitors. So really gathering that data on what your competitors are paying their employees in the same positions is a great place to start, and really should be the backbone of what your compensation philosophy is going to be in the future and present.
So what's your professional opinion on why companies sometimes struggle with this?
It's inconsistency. It's really easy to sort of do those one-off compensation decisions on an employee by employee basis just to kind of make everyone happy. But the thing that is attached to that is that inconsistency is lack of structure, and it really opens the door for saying, hey, you're favoriting this employee over me, where we have the exact same experience, we have the exact same certifications, we have the exact same performance review, yet they're getting paid $10,000 more than me every year. Is it just because you like them more? So it sort of avoids having those questions asked, and if they are asked, you have data and documentation to point to and say, hey, no, they do more complex work than you, or they do have more experience than you, even if you've been here the same amount of time. They might have experience outside that's really valuable that they brought in.
So can you tell us a little bit about compensation benchmarking and how that helps HR teams?
So that's always where I start. When we're building strategy, structure, philosophy, I always like to look at the market data first. And again, just kind of figuring out where you currently stand. If everyone's at the 50th percentile or greater, then we're in a good place and we can kind of work from that. But correctly matching your job titles to market data that's industry specific, size specific, and geography specific is really important because you're going to point to that data as the main reason why certain job titles are paid what they are. It's really important to get good, accurate data. So you want to look for employer submitted data, not necessarily employee submitted data. I don't want Catherine saying, "Hey, I'm a podcast host in New Orleans and I make $500,000 a year," right? That's going to be included in the employee submitted data. So it's really finding a good source of data that produces relevant information that you can make decisions on a case by case basis.
So, what would be the benefit of companies outsourcing this to consultants rather than doing it themselves?
Again, you're trying to avoid that favoritism, nepotism, or discrimination sort of attitude that can come with doing it in-house, right? There's always going to be room to point to biases within your HR program. Having that third party coming in and validating either A, what you're thinking, or maybe B, hey, this third party has no room or has no player in the game, so they're going to come in objectively and say, hey, this is what this job is supposed to be making and this is what your employee's making. If there is any difference there, we're going to point it out to you and sort of let you make that decision. And it's also good to sort of have that third party to point to if employers do ask, hey, I'm an accountant and I make $50,000, but the market data says I should only be making 40. Well, that's what our third party said. That's not what we said. They produced the data and sort of using us as sort of a scapegoat, if you will, to sort of justify payment practices, compensation practices.
So, can you tell us a little bit about internal analysis focusing on fair pay practices?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's always two sides of the coin for every compensation decision made throughout the year. One of them should be that external view where we are looking at benchmarking and salary survey data like we talked about before. But the other one, and it's just as important as the external view, is the internal view. And that's making sure that, okay, comparing this employee to other employees in similarly situated jobs or maybe the same exact job title, comparing those differences in pay and also comparing their pay factors like experience and certifications and performance to make sure that they're lining up the way you'd expect them to. Being really consistent with those pay factors is key because if you are inconsistent but you point to experience for why someone's getting paid what they are, but your most experienced employee is getting paid less than your least experienced employee, then that sort of your structure crumbles, right? You don't have that justification for why people are paid the way they are, and there's no credibility within that system. So really taking an internal look and saying, okay, are our current employees lining up sort of the way we'd expect them based off this handful of pay factors? That's really, really important. So again, setting your matches, but gathering relevant data from the outside, but also comparing what that salary looks like on the inside as well, and comparing employee versus employee is just as important as that external view.
All right, you got me. I want to run an internal pay equity analysis, but why are pay equity audits so important now more than ever?
Yeah, talking about that internal view of things, pay equity audits use what we call multiple linear regression, and it's a great tool to sort of capture and control for all those factors that do matter. And the end result of that analysis is it really focuses in on and identifies which employees aren't lining up the best when compared to other employees. So it does a great job of pointing out inconsistencies, outliers, and contradictions to those pay philosophy, to that pay structure that you already set up. In that example where I said the most experienced employee is making less than the least experienced employee, well, there might be other factors going on there. Like, what if the most experienced employee lives in a very low cost of living area? What if that most experienced employee doesn't have the certifications that the least experienced employee has? So compensation is this equation, and we try to capture that using regression analysis. We try to capture all those factors to see how consistently are they applied to compensation on a day-to-day basis. And really, compliance reasons too, right? Mitigating risk when it comes to race and gender differences. I mean, it's just a great tool to, again, test that consistency of your practices, because that's what you're going to lean on for when you are asked about why employees are paid what they are, is saying, hey, these are the reasons. We don't deviate from these reasons. And that audit, that regression analysis is going to prove that you don't deviate from those reasons.
So what does pay transparency really mean? Has it changed over the years? Is it still evolving?
Yeah, so I think pay transparency two different ways. One is the more compliance related, where it's state by state, right? Each state has their own kind of different laws and are still continuing to make their own laws about what you have to do to be compliant. Some require ranges on job postings. Some require ranges on job postings plus sort of a path of what the next step is if this position got a promotion. Others require a lot more. I'm thinking about Colorado and California. But the majority of them do require salary ranges on job postings. And those can be a little bit controversial, because what happens if you put a range of 60,000 to 100,000 for a particular job, but you already have employees within that job who are making less than 60,000. Well, then all of a sudden they're kind of questioning, why are you bringing in people at a higher rate than what I'm currently making? Also, attracting good candidates. Using that market data to set those ranges in a way that does attract candidates that want to work for your company is really important as well. So that's the compliance side. The other side is sort of the proactive pay transparency, where companies want to be open and fair about their pay practices. So they sit down and say, hey, your position, your minimum and maximum for, let's go back to the accountant example, the minimum and maximum is $50,000 to $70,000. Right now you stand at 55, but it's because you only have 1 year of experience and you just got certified last year. But you have the opportunity to go up to 70. The next step would be a senior accountant, where the range is 70 to 90. So sort of laying it all out there so that it encourages and motivates the employee to earn more money based off the pay factors that you consistently deem are important. So there's two kind of sides to the coin here, that proactive pay transparency and also the compliance side, where the states are requiring job postings salary ranges on every job posting.
And so state laws have been changing over time. Is there a way for companies to easily stay up to date on those state laws?
Yes. So we at OutSolve have developed a cool tool that sort of tracks all the state laws that are going on. So I'd said the majority of them do require salary ranges on job postings, but a lot more sort of have their nuance attached to it as well. If someone's struggling with kind of keeping up with all those laws, let us know and we can absolutely have a tool to sort of help you, guide you through the process, because they're changing every day and new ones are coming and going kind of every month, it seems like.
All right, Nick, it's time to get under the spotlight with
right.
some rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
What should HR leaders do to get started on a solid comp strategy?
Market analysis, salary surveys.
What are the biggest mistakes to avoid? Rapid fire.
Not having data and documentation that support pay decisions.
Biggest myth about compensation strategy?
That you can get away with making everybody happy without having a set of rules to guide you.
One thing comp professionals should stop doing today?
Exceptions and contradictions to the rules that they set up.
What is the best first step to fix a pay gap?
Regression analysis.
All right. Those were pretty good answers, I have to say.
Awesome.
What is your top advice for HR professionals who are looking to get a good, solid compensation strategy?
Yeah, so going back to that two lens approach, making sure that we're including external factors like salary survey, benchmarking, and also doing that internal view as well, kind of figuring out where your current employees stand and how do they compare against how your competitors are paying. I think keeping that in mind, because some companies just look at the external and they don't really care about what's going on internally. Or some companies just look internally and think that they're aligned with the market, but they're not. So having that dual approach, having both data sets to point to is really it's the best way to mitigate any risks associated with compensation.
So how could OutSolve help them today?
Yeah, call us and let us know what you want to prioritize with your compensation strategy and compensation decisions. We have a great team over here that focuses on those external views and also the internal views. We have a lot of different tools that we use that quickly identify those contradictions and outliers and inconsistencies. And yeah, we're used to building something from scratch using that market data and testing it afterwards using that regression analysis. So if we want more information on that, let us know and we'd be happy to help.
Thanks so much, Nick. If your company is ready to take your compensation strategy to the next level, OutSolve is here to help. We offer compensation benchmarking services tailored to your organization, pay equity audits using multiple regression analysis, salary survey structure development, and pay philosophy alignment, support for compliance with state and federal pay transparency laws. To learn more, visit outsolve.com/compensation and check out our compensation guide, pay equity audits, and more. We'll see you next time.